All right, I am going to start. I'll go nice and slow. And if, like again, if the picture behind me goes, please let me know so I can unplug this and plug it back in again. Okay, welcome back. I came back Thursday, got to go to the St. Louis campus, and they had us sit through a couple sessions, and then they gave us lunch. I think I almost, honest to goodness, I think I almost got food poisoning from the lunch. I went home and didn't make it all the way home, you know, and I just started getting really sick. So that was interesting. And then I had to come in on Friday, so. All right. So welcome to Application Programming with Java. In my humble opinion, this course is misnamed. All right. I think it should be called Android App Programming or something like that, because that's the majority of what we're going to do in here. So you know that. All right. None of my information has changed. If you do go and look on Inside Rankin, thank you. Yep. If you do go out and go on to Inside Rankin, if you look on the screen, this has got a link to that stuff I gave you before that's online. This is a link to the Muroc Android book, which is optional. This is a link to that Java Quick Syntax book, which is also optional. And this is a link to my YouTube channel. The only thing I want to show you on that, if you would please take a look up on the screen here. You will notice, once it comes up, I already have 30 videos. I have done videos for all 23 chapters of that Java Quick Syntax book. That's probably about 20 or 25 of these videos. I've also started to do the payroll things that we're going to be doing in class now. All right, and I've been doing them just kind of on my own, etc. All right. All right. Looking quickly at the syllabus because I don't want to spend a lot of time. Here's a question. How many of you got an email from the Rankin Emergency Notification System today? If the answer from anybody is no, you're probably not signed up. Please make sure you are. You know we lost a day last semester due to the snow. And you know we typically seem to lose a day for ice or snow every semester. All right, and you hopefully know that it is Rankin's policy that they do not put anything on TV or radio. All right, if you say, pardon my French, but screw it, I'm not doing that, then don't do it. But if you look up on the screen, you all should be able to, out on Inside Rankin, you should be able to go to notifications here and skip down to the bottom. Now, I don't know if I told you guys this or not, but in many ways, your instructor is an idiot. Because what happened when we had that snow day is I went to this page and I stopped right here. I didn't go down to where it said there was no class. So I came in anyway. All right, at about 7 o'clock, this kid comes in and he's in the building systems program and he goes, "What are you doing here? There's no classes today." Well, I kind of figured that, considering I got here at 5 and it was 7 and there was no one there yet. But I thought, you know, I'm only about 8 miles away. I just thought I can do some work. I didn't think it was that terrible out anyway. But please look, all right? Especially those of you who are driving quite a distance, you know, I just hate to see you come in when the weather is bad, when you don't have to. All right, enough of that. So, again, program level outcomes, here's those links I just told you about. I'm not going to read this, but again, this is the course description. I don't think it's very well written, just so you know. I didn't write it. I'm not ripping on Evan because he probably wrote it, okay? But I don't think it really is reflective of the way the class is, okay? All right, here's the course level outcomes. Most of this stuff, number one, utilize widgets, layouts, and styles in Android apps. By this time, well, maybe not by this time next week, but by no later than Monday of next week, we're going to write a fairly extensive app as a class. All right, you're going to be able to plug in, and you're going to have your whole resume is going to be on an app. Okay, you'll have stuff on 3 different pages. You'll be able to move around with it, etc. That's going to be the first assignment that you're not only going to create in Android, but you're going to turn in. All right, and that's something, again, that you could give to a prospective employer. All right, Write apps that demonstrate Java and object-oriented programming. We're going to start that today. Plan, design, build, and test mobile Java-based apps using Android Studio. I did mention this to you last semester. I'm going to show you a couple things here, but I recommend, and you can do it right now as I'm talking, is that you go out to and just literally go out to your favorite browser of choice and just type in Intellij IDEA Community Edition download. It's much easier to write straight Java this way as opposed to, here, make it nice and big. There you go. Okay? You want the Community Edition because it's free. We're only going to be really using this in a lot of depth and breadth of coverage for about the first week of class. So if you want to do that and then uninstall it next week, go ahead and do that. All right? Not a problem. Now, if you do put this in and you hit enter, well, look, that's kind of hard to screw it up, I would think. The first one says download Intellij IDEA. And you want to make sure when you click that link, it'll be broken into two parts here. So notice what you don't get with the free one. All right? Nothing that's going to really hurt us with what we're going to be doing. So choose the community, click download, however you do your downloads, and just do the download. I don't think there was anything special I had to do. I mean, if it helps you, I can uninstall it and reinstall mine, but I just went through all the default stuff. All right? So again, that's what I'd recommend that you do for at least this week. We're not going to be building our Android apps in there. We're going to be building our Android apps in Android Studio. All right. Now, notice number 4 here. Work with the Android SDK, Gradle, and Android APIs. I want to just tell you something, that when you create a mobile app, I'm going to show you this when we get in there next week, but there are some files that you can go in and touch and maneuver, all right? But there's certain things in those files you shouldn't touch. Did you hear what I said? So I'm going to show you how you can work with setting SDKs, etc. like that. How much of that you're going to do is kind of up to you. All right? If you say, well, I'm never going to do it, you probably never would have to. All right? Perform file I/O with local files and handle I/O exceptions. We'll look at that a little bit already, I think, this week. And finally, utilize Git. Okay? It's funny, I had a quick lesson on how to use GitHub Classroom, and from Evan, he gave me 15 minutes and he showed me how to set it all up. Everything was cool. I set it up, I put all of you in there, and then I forgot everything he said. So I'm going to have to go back and try to take a look at it, see if I can figure out what it is. All right, attendance hasn't changed, except I want to show you this. Does this matter to you? No, because you don't see this, but I want to show you a little look into my world, so to speak. Now, Chris isn't here today, all right? So I'm not showing you this to work on him, but if you look, what happens, like let's say it's tomorrow, okay? So I'm right here, it's tomorrow. Come on. Oh, it's got to go back that way. And to attendance. Now maybe it will let me change it. The point is, what we have in here now, I guess I can show it to you like this. Under Edit Saved Entries, notice now, because this has changed for us, it used to say in here present, absent, excused, absent, unexcused, and tardy. They have totally gotten rid of, they said there is no unexcused absence. They don't care what the reason is. Now, do I care? If it's April and Evan decides that he's going to go to St. Louis for the job fair, I'm marking him present as long as he can prove that he was there. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. It shouldn't be an issue because that's typically in the morning. Okay. But if something like that were to happen, that doesn't say, you know, Tom comes in and he says that his mom's sick, his dad's sick. Yeah, if you got to miss, you know, one of my students, his sister My morning students, his sister is going in for emergency surgery next week. All right? And he wants to be with her. I understand that. He said, I'm going to miss a day. You still get your 7 days. But technically now nothing is considered unexcused. I just want you to get that. All right? That goes for us too. All right. One thing that, Charles was telling me this today. Charles is a great guy. He's almost always, in my opinion, is in a really good mood. But he wasn't in that great a mood when I talked to him at lunch, and I was kind of probing, asking him why. And he said that he had about 3 or 4 students who are second semester students. And they were not just out of compliance with the rank and dress code, they were really out of compliance. Shirts weren't tucked in at all, hair wasn't combed, etc., etc. And he's like, if they were brand new students, I could understand it. But they heard me talk about this for an entire semester. All right? So the point is, you all know this, that if you're in here and you're wearing something right now that's non-rankin and it's on the outside, you should take it off. All right? Now, I don't know what they'd say with your hat because it doesn't say rankin on it. So they might say something about that. All right? But I had to go through, and they had another orientation this morning, and Shannon put on her email, teachers should accompany their classes to this orientation and stay there while they're there. Well, one idiot accompanied his students to the orientation. No one else did. So I got to sit there for an hour and a half, even though it was supposed to be an hour, and listen to the same stuff I've heard 3 times now in the last month. But they kept harping on it and harping on it. And one of my students, I guess she talked to Shannon, and she has a nose. What do you call is it a ring if it's in the side of your nose? I don't know. But here she got a clear one, and I guess at least for a while they're going to let that stand because you really truly can't tell. But from what I hear, they're going to have more and more potential employers come through here touring, and they want this to look definitely, absolutely as professional in here as possible. All right, so it's not me getting on people for being out of compliance. It'll be Shannon, it'll be Charles, it'll be somebody else. All right? All right. I think everybody knows this by now. 74.5 is the low end. Of course, 100 would be the high end, right? Okay. This I don't exactly agree with. I'm going to have a talk with all of you when we get to the Android part about written tests. All right? Because I'll just talk to you then. All right. Always go to Inside Rankin if you've got questions, as always. All right. Anything general college information, go to Patrick or go to Brandon. I found out this morning, I thought they had told him. No one ever told Brandon when he started here that people who were going to go into the AWD program needed their own computers. So he'd been telling everybody they provide computers for you. All right? All right. The rest of this, of course, however long this is the course schedule. Now, I want to mention one more thing, and then we're going to just start doing some coding. All right? So, let's see. I had shown you all this, not that. Where is it? There. Okay. I had shown you the stuff that was out on the system for Android, all this stuff, this 10-part series. All right, I gave you a link to it. We're going to look at those hyperlinks I sent you in just a couple minutes. This is basically what I plan on using as the textbook. Okay, just so you know. Now, every one of these 10 lessons has one or more labs that are associated with it. Okay? How do I know that? Because here's the labs. There's actually 31 of them. Now, I could assign all of them and make you do, because most of them have got at least one program with them. That's kind of ridiculous in my opinion. All right? So we're not going to do that, but we're going to look at that stuff. Okay? We're going to actually end up looking at it not today, then probably tomorrow. All right. Before the break, I sent you all an email. Let's see if I can find it. No. So this was sometime during the break. Wish I could find my own stuff. But what it had in it was it had a series of hyperlinks. This I sent out, and that was the syllabus. Don't need to talk about that anymore. But somewhere in here, I gave you a bunch of hyperlinks.
Are you looking for the one with the textbook that you were talking about?
No.
No.
I'll find it. But I put about 10 hyperlinks in there. If you didn't know this, let's say we get started and you're struggling for whatever reason. It's the end of week 1. And you're like, I don't even get Java. Now we're going into Android. Just so you know, W3 Schools actually has a Java tutorial out here. All right? There are a bunch of really good tutorials that are out there. I'm going to give you Java, but you're going to get Java. It's more or less like I'm teaching you to swim by just pushing you in, and I'm walking away. All right? In other words, a lot of it's you're just going to have to pick the stuff up. All right? You're all smart enough to do this. We're going to write a bunch of programs. We're going to start literally in a matter of minutes, but you're going to go, this is almost exactly the same way we did it in C#, because it is. All right? And then we'll get into the nuances of where it's different. All right, so for today, most of the stuff that we're going to end up doing, in my humble opinion, is pretty simple. Again, that doesn't mean you agree with that. All right, that doesn't mean that you agree with that. Now, I'm taking for granted that anyone who wanted to download Intellij IDEA, you did that. All right, okay. Then I would suggest, and you don't have to make it wherever you save stuff, and I'm just going to take for granted that it's on your desktop. Okay, I'm going to suggest that somewhere on your desktop that you make some kind of a folder. All right, and I'm going to make a folder, and I'm just going to call it Payroll Programs. All right, you don't have to call it that, but something you haven't used the name before. So I'm creating a brand new folder here called Payroll Programs. All right? You don't have to open it. You don't have to do anything with it. All right? But just have that folder there. Why? Because we're going to create a bunch of payroll programs. We're going to put them in that folder. Does that make sense? All right? Now, once we get to where we're working on Android, okay, and we get into Android Studio, I'd suggest what you do then is you create, for example, like a folder, call it Android Programs, but then every time we create a new app, put a folder inside of there. So if we were going to do an app, let's say on miles per gallon, so then inside of your Android Programs folder, you'd put another folder that was called MPG app or something like that. And then you would create the app in there. Do you have to do it that way? Heck no. But it makes it much easier as far as organization goes. All right? So I've got this thing. Again, I'm not opening it. I'm not doing anything with it. Good. Thank you. Had you previously downloaded Intellij IDEA?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I had them do so far. And I went over the syllabus, so I don't think you really missed much.
That's what we did right before we left last semester, right?
Before the end of the semester, we did Android Studio and the JDK. And then I mentioned at the end, Intellij IDEA Community Edition. You can tell by coming into here, in your search bar, Luke, if you come in here, and you type in Intellij, and if you've got it right here, it should show it.
Okay.
Otherwise, just Google it and then download it. Okay? All right. And then what we did was on our desktop, We just made a folder called Payroll Programs because we're going to end up putting our stuff in there. All right. So then, however you want to start up Intellij IDEA, notice that I've got it right here. I've got it on my taskbar, whatever the heck this is called, down at the bottom. So I'm going to click right there. Now, I've got it open and I've got some stuff in here already. I'm just going to close that. I'm going to close my project. When you open yours up for the first time, it may look like mine is going to look right now. It may not. It's not really that big a thing one way or the other. Okay? In fact, let me exit there and I'll start it up again. All right. So I'm starting it up just like you are, fresh. And it should come up and look something like this, at least. I will tell you that when I've used this before, and occasionally with Android Studio, sometimes it just seems to literally disconnect from your JDK. It's like everything's working fine, and all of a sudden it doesn't work. I have not had this happen with other kinds of software. All right? I was in here on Friday, and I wrote a bunch of Java programs using Intellij. No problem. I came in today and wrote another one. As soon as I tried to run it, there was no JDK. So what did I do? I uninstalled it, and I reinstalled it. I did nothing else. And since then, at least, it's been working fine. Okay? I'm not a hardware guy, sorry. Like, if I could tell you why it was doing that, I would, if I knew why, I'd let you know. All right. Yours may be empty right here. If you haven't created anything yet, it probably is. Okay? So, we're going to do create new project. Everybody with me? All right. So I clicked create new project. And it comes up looking like this. Now, much of the stuff that's in here, you'll probably know or be able to figure out. But at least just for the first time, if you'd watch, I'd appreciate it. Okay. If we wanted, you can use this for Android. You can. I'm going to use Android Studio because that's what Google recommends. But if you start using this and you use Android Studio, and let's say that you really like this, and for whatever reason you don't like Android Studio, you can use this. I can still create your stuff. It's not a problem. All right? But I'm going to keep it set to Java. Don't choose either one of these. We're not doing anything with Kotlin, so it should be Java by default. Also, hopefully, you've got this up on top, that yours is not empty. Okay? Because we did last time before you went on break, as Christian mentioned, we did download the JDK and we downloaded Android Studio. All right? So, with all that just like it is, in other words, I didn't change a thing. Yes?
Mine says only 11.
If yours says, that shouldn't matter. No. What would matter is if it was blank.
Okay.
That would matter. All right? Okay. So, just click Next. All right. Now, it's saying we're creating a new project. Do we want to create it from a template? No. Do we want to do any command line app? No. So we just click Next again. All right. Now it's asking us, where is this project going to live? What's it called? Where is it going to live? Does that make sense? All right. Now, I'm going to suppose that this is just all screwed up, and this isn't where I want to be. So I'm going to click the ellipsis. It'll load in here everything, and you can change this to your desktop or wherever you just chose to save things. All right, so I'm going to click the arrow here for desktop, and then I'm going to find the thing I just did for payroll programs. I'm going to click that. All right, so mine says, again, I'm not saying this is what yours says, this is what mine says. Mine says C:, /users, /Rankin, /desktop, /payroll programs. And please, if you are still saying, well, mine is like that, but I've got a space between payroll and programs, don't use spaces in your stuff. Please just run stuff together. All right? So that is where I want, but, okay, I want to make sure it looks exactly the way I want. Okay, so right now, that's all cool, except, okay, except that's not what I want to name the project. That's the name of the folder. I want to call this one Payroll01. Okay? Now, it's funny because when I started working on it this morning, I'm just going to leave this in here. What did it say? I think it said payroll project or payroll programs. No, I didn't use any of that. I just used the default stuff, which was basically, I think, shows nothing. All right. Okay, so what I did this morning was I went in here and I went to the end here, and I put in /payroll01. But that's going to be the location. Boy, this isn't even working like it did this morning. So Payroll01. This should work because what is it saying? It's saying I want to create a project called Payroll01. And I want to create it under my desktop, under the payroll programs folder. This should be correct. Can everybody see that okay? On the end here, it shouldn't. I don't think it matters if I have it in there or don't have it in there, to be honest with you. So I'm going to click Finish. And then it's going to do some stuff. All right? Yours should look similar to what mine looks like right now. Okay, I'm not saying it's going to look exactly the same. All right, I don't want people to freak out. I had a couple of the first-year people this morning. Mine, you know, theirs wasn't exactly like mine or whatever. That's okay. But if you look under here, I want to go to this payroll programs folder, and I want to click the arrow that's by it, and then I want to look under source right there. All right. Now I'm looking. And don't do this, but I want to look. I'm just trying to satisfy my own curiosity here. All right. So I want to look here under my desktop, and I want to see if it did make that folder. Okay, it didn't. I don't know why it did this morning, but it didn't know, and it's okay. We're going on. All right. Am I right in assuming everybody's here? No. Okay, let's take a look. You all right then?
Yeah.
Who else? Anybody else have a problem?
What did you call the paper?
I call it Payroll01. No spaces. All right. So you've all been able to get to right here, correct? All right. Now let's try this. Right mouse click where it says source. Right there. Right mouse click on it. Okay. Oops. So right mouse click on it and choose new and choose Java class. I'm going to leave that there for a minute. If we have time at the end of the semester, we're going to build an app in Kotlin as a class. So you can see the difference between building an Android app in Java and building one in Kotlin. Okay? But you don't want to choose Kotlin right there. You want to choose Java class. If it comes up and it looks like this after you did it, that's the way that it should look. All right? Why, when we did this, it didn't make Payroll01, I don't know. So we're going to type in here right now, Payroll01. Now, before you can type it in, don't hit enter or anything, because there's a few things I want to explain about this. Okay? First of all, Java is, in many ways, it's a prickly kind of language. What I mean is, once I hit enter here, it's going to create a file for me that's called Payroll01.java. It's also going to create a class for me called Payroll01. Did you notice how other than the .java, those names are the same? They must be the same. And the caseness, sorry, this is from this morning. The caseness that I use on them must be the same. Again, not my rules. These are Java rules. All right? So don't put in there payroll space 01. Don't even use an underline or a hyphen or an underscore rather. Just run it like this. What we will do by the end of the week is you will have done an interface. You will have done an interface later in the week. I will explain to you what an enum is. The Javafx is one of the ways that you can do GUIs with just Java. Not an app, but very similar to the kind of stuff that we did when we were in C# and you wrote GUI apps in there. Kind of the same thing. All right? And annotation, I don't even remember what it does, so I'm not going to make something up. So I've got Payroll01, okay? And I'm going to hit enter. And it should make this, okay? Now, I'm going to do something, and my guess is when you do it, it's not going to work. So I'm going to show you how to make it work in a second. Do you ever have this when you hold down on your control key and you use your mouse button to make something bigger? Do you ever do that? Try to do it on yours and see if it works. My guess is it won't work on yours. So I'm going to show you how to make it work in just a second. Yes?
How did you get all that stuff? I was still installing.
You're still installing?
Yeah, I have it where I'm at.
Okay. You got it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to take for granted that it didn't work for you. Okay? So you can Google this, but I already did, so I can show it to you. If I can find, because I've got too much garbage up here. There it is. So to change your font size by using that wheel, this is what you do. On your menu, go to File, which should be the leftmost setting. Under File, choose Settings. Under Settings, choose Editor. Under Editor, choose General. Now look on the screen, please. Right up near the top here, there should be a box that's not checked that says Change Font Size Zoom with Control Mouse Wheel. Check it and click OK. That should allow you to do it. If I said that too fast, all I said was just like this. File, Settings, Editor, General, and it's right there. See the second one down? Change font size, zoom with Control plus mouse wheel. If you ever have to uninstall this and reinstall it, you have to reset that. Just so you know. Okay. So now you should be able to make it bigger, smaller. Okay? All right. I like to put stuff on a separate line. I don't care what you do with curlies. Just be consistent. Is that fair enough? All right. Do it whatever way you want. All right. But like I said, when you do it, just be consistent. In the exact same way, that we did it in C#, you do comments the same way. / or /* ending with a */. There is a special kind of Java comment. Please look on the screen. We're not going to go over it now. If you want to later, we can. It starts with /**. It's called a Javadoc comment as opposed to a Java comment. All right? It's not that big a thing for what we're going to be doing in here. Okay. But I just wanted to show you, if you want to go in, I mean, I put prologues in front of all these. It's not really that big a thing. Okay? Now, every single Java program that you create must somewhere, a Java program can have several classes in it. But at least one of those classes must have a function called what? What function did we have to have when we wrote C# programs? Okay, especially C# console programs. Main. You need a main. Now, don't type this, because I want to show you a shortcut. So I can come in here and I can type in public static void string bracket args. Totally fine. I can type that in, and I can put in a curly here and hit enter. Okay? That's totally fine. I'm not sure why it's, because I didn't put main in there. Okay, that's fine, and it'll work just fine. But if you're like me and you're always looking for a shortcut, okay, type in PSV and hit your tab key. All right, it's not that big a thing, but it saves you a few keystrokes. All right, you can always type it in yourself, but this way I'm sure it's not going to have an error in it. Again, if you decide you want to put these curlies on that same line, then put them there. I don't really care. But every Java program, someplace in it, must have a main. That's the point of entry for the program. Now, the string bracket args, okay, I'm going to show you something. Do you have to write it down? You don't have to write anything down. But I just do want to show you this. Because, again, it's not that different than most languages you already know. I'm going to write 8 things on here. So I'm going to write byte, short, int, long, double, float, char, boolean. I think that's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are what are called the 8 primitive Java data types. Did you hear me? All right. When you use them, they always must be used with lowercase. Why? Because if you use them with uppercase, byte with a little b as opposed to byte with a big B are 2 different things. So if you want to use these as simple data types, make sure you use them with lowercase. The other reason I'm telling you that is if you looked in here, in main, we've got something that says string. Notice it's got a big S, and it's not in our list here. String is not a simple or primitive data type in Java. It is what's called an object data type. All right, we're going to have to do things a little bit differently with strings than we did them in C#. All right. Now we're going to write a simple program right now, and I just tried to illustrate a few of these things. So, for instance, I used age in the program, and I made it a byte. Typically, I wouldn't do that. Okay. Almost all programmers that I know they never use byte, they never use shorts. They use ints, or if they need a really big one, they use longs. It's just something that programmers do. But back in the day when memory was at a premium and you needed to keep your program as small as possible, that's where that stuff all started. All right? In much the same way, Java's a little bit weird. Let's say that I'm going to make a variable. Again, don't type this in or anything. I just want to show it to you. If I type in float salary, and let's say I want to make it equal to 50,000.00, guess what? I'm going to get an error message when I do that. Because when you make stuff a float, you've got to either put a big F or a little f when you initialize. All right? Why? Because it's a rule somebody made. All right? Well, I don't want to do that. Then, if you don't want to do that, you make it a double. because it defaults to type double. So when we had this as a float and it gave us an error, it's because you left the F off so it thought it was a double. And then it looked over here and saw float. Do you understand what I'm saying? What's the difference? How many decimals, does it give you? I think it's 6 with a float and it's 17 with a double. And you're like, why the hell would I care? The bottom line is you probably want to make everything an int or a double. Okay? Just so you know that. Now, what if I had something that was, I just wanted to put in my middle initial? I would say char mi for middle initial equals p. That is my middle initial. Single quotes. So if something is of type char, must be in single quotes. This can be any character, including any one of the over 100,000 Unicode characters. So if you wanted to code stuff and have it be another language, Chinese or whatever, you could actually do that. All right? All right. And Boolean is, we know what Boolean is, right? True, false. Okay? But if I come through here, just like you've seen in other languages, and I said here, fname equals Jeff, has to be in double quotes. Okay? The other thing that you're going to hear or see or whatever, if you look at enough documentation, is it'll say something like this. So I'm going to put here dot, dot, dot. In other words, there's some code there. I don't care what it is. But there's some code between this line and let's say this line. Now I come down here and I say fname equals Jeffrey. Okay? What I want you to understand is strings in this language are what are known as being immutable. In other words, when I created this right here, somewhere in the memory of the computer, I'm making this up. I'm going to say starting at memory location 1000. They put Jeff in there. Not Jeff. They put the machine language zeros and ones for a J, an E, an F, and an F. Does that make sense? All right. Then later when we change it, it goes to a totally different memory location. And it puts in J, E, F, F, R, E, Y, and zeros and ones. Then it takes this and basically it says, hey, I'm marking this as null, meaning that it's available to be used. Recoup this. Java has a thing that runs under the operating system called the garbage collector. You ever see, I know most of you are too young to even probably know what this means, but there used to be people that would drive around that were called meter maids, men or women, didn't matter. But what they would do, because I had it happen to me when I was your age, a student in school, they would put a chalk mark underneath your tire. If you were parked in a 2-hour zone, they'd come back in 2 hours. If the chalk mark was still there, you'd get a ticket. Get what I'm saying? All right. But with me coming through there and changing this, it's almost as if I came through there with a hanky and wiped that chalk mark off. But what the garbage collector will do is it will come in and it will look. If this has been changed to null, it'll say it flags it. It doesn't remove it, but it flags it. It says, hey, this isn't being used. It's set to null. Then when it comes around again, if it's still null, then it frees up that memory. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because this is internally what's happening in the system. All right? This is, believe it or not, this is the kind of thing you could actually be asked at a job interview for becoming a Java programmer. All right? What do you know, Luke, what do you know about Java garbage collection? Now, I wouldn't use my analogy because it's not really a great one, but I would at least look it up, and it's going to be somebody who knows more about it than I do, okay, and take a look at it. All right. So what I did in here was I put all the code for right now, all the code's in main. So the first, we're going to write 3 programs today, at least, and with these first 3 programs, they're all only going to have a main. That's it. All right? Then we're going to rewrite it and write methods for everything that we do. But we're just going to use simple names for our methods. Then we're going to go back and we're going to rewrite it using Java names for the methods, so you can understand the difference between them. All right? So this is the stuff I'm putting in. Feel free to use your own name, etc. Okay? But I'm going to come in and I'm going to say string, first name. In fact, this is supposed to be for employees, so I'm going to call it emp first name. If you look on the screen, I'm going to run out of room. You see this? You can do this if you want to. You can close this if you want to and reopen it. All right, I can make this smaller. I'm trying to make it big enough so everybody can see everything I'm doing. So I'm going to say first name equals Jeffrey. Again, you can use my information. I don't care. All right, but I'm going to say now char emp mi, just for middle initial, equals p. Oh, what's the problem? Oh, single quotes. Not double quotes, Jeff. There we go. String emp last name equals Scott. All right, I put a lot more stuff in here than we need because I wanted to be able to show you this stuff. Emp age. I think that's a little b, isn't it? Yeah. Well, 3 more. Now, what many Java programmers do, if you look up on the screen here, if I were to print these things out right now, just so you know this, if I printed out those 3 variables that are in blue, they would print out 40.0, 10.0, and 0.0. All right? It'll automatically append that on. So a lot of programmers just put the 0.0 in there. It really and truly does not matter one way or the other whether or not you do it. What I want you to start doing is developing your own comfort level with this stuff. I want you to be consistent. One thing you don't want to do, and I don't know if you know this or not, but the average salary for a Java programmer, this is not a starting programmer, but all the Java programmers, all the ads that are out there on like dice.com, I think it's 115 grand a year. So it's not a bad field to get into. The language can be a little bit of a pain in the butt to learn, but once you learn it, you've learned languages that are similar enough that I think anybody in this room could not just be a Java programmer, but could be a successful Java programmer. And if for for nothing else, you can all raise your hand and go, yeah, and it ain't ASP.NET either. No, it ain't. It's going to look, this stuff, when we get into it, you're going to say, boy, there's a lot of similarities here between C# and Java. There's articles that you can read on the web that say a C# programmer should be able to become actually a fairly experienced Java programmer in 2 weeks, and vice versa. That's basically the learning curve to go from one to the other. Now, it's actually harder to go from C# to Java like we're doing, because Java makes you do certain things that C# doesn't make you do. All right. So now let's look at what we've got here. Am I right in assuming everything here makes sense to people in blue? Am I right? Is there anything that's in there? Because if it doesn't, please ask. All right. I made this a string. I could have made it an int. All right. And it would have been totally fine to make it an int. But you really should get used to only making fields numeric like this that are possibly going to be being used in calculations. I can't imagine using an employee number in a calculation. Not only that, what if later they decide, they have numbers that go from 1 to 1,000,000. Now they've used them all. And they want to put an A on the end. I can do that fairly easily with this. I don't have to change anything. Okay? Again, it's not like it's that big a thing, but just so you're aware of that. All right. The problem that we're going to have with this program, it's going to work. We got to put a little bit of code in, but it's going to work. But the problem is we're hard coding in our values. So every time we run it, let's just say you used my values here. Okay? It's going to come out and it's going to say, first name Jeffrey, middle initial P, last name Scott, age 63, is union false, emp number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hours worked 40, hourly rate 10, gross pay 400. Every time. So after the break, we're going to finish this. Then after the break, I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can do this where we can get input from the user. So we can run it, and every time we run it, we'll have something new in there. Does that make sense? All right. And one way will be ugly as hell, but it's a way that a lot of people use. It's almost like doing it from the command line. The other way is about as gooey as we're going to get with just Java. Okay? We'll bring up the equivalent of like a little input box, and then when we print it out, we'll have the equivalent of a message box. So you'll get a chance to see both of those. All right? And you're going to say, or you might think, well, fine, which one are we going to use in Android? Neither. But I'm trying to be complete. It is not at all out of the question to think that if you go in and you try to interview for a Java programming job, it's quite possible they're going to ask you to do an hour-long test where you write code in Java. All right, there's a lot of places that are doing that today. So at least if it's something, you'll know how to do this. All right, so you'll know how to do very simple input and output operations. All right, I've got a guy that I worked with for years when I was at AT&T Bell Labs, Rich Berry, very good friend of mine. He needed one more class to get his master's degree, and he didn't really want to take it. The guy had been a C programmer for 20 years, so he took Intro to C, which I found funny, but I've just got a weird sense of humor. But he had to ask me how to do this stuff, because he did not know how to do regular input and regular output because he never did anything like that, the kind of code he wrote. All right, so we've got this. Now, I could have, just so you know, instead of putting 0.0 there, I could have just said emp gross pay equals emp hours worked times emp hourly rate. I could have taken this and put it right here. I'm not asking you that, I'm telling you that. That would have been just fine. I decided to put it over 2 lines. So yeah, you can put that in there next. All right? Now all we're going to do is we're going to print all this stuff out. I realize we're starting at ground zero here. I get that. Believe me, by tomorrow, it'll get a hell of a lot harder than this is. All right? Now, look on the screen, please. Even if you're still typing, stop for a second. Okay? So what is it? SOP. There's a shortcut for this. I'm trying to remember what it was. SP, no. SOP, no. All right. Well, I'm going to show you what it is. It's system.out.println. All right, that's how you print. So we're going to start printing some stuff right now. But there's a shortcut for it. I thought it was SO or SOP, but it doesn't take either one of them. But there's a shortcut for that too. All right. And I'm going to put here emp first name plus. We've used plus for concatenation before. Okay. And I'm going to just do a bunch of copying here. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. Oh, I skipped the middle initial. Sorry. You don't have to line everything up in here. It doesn't matter one way or the other if stuff lines up or doesn't line up. All right. Might look a little funkier when we print it out, but I don't care. I'm done. I'm going to just do a save all, and I want to just see if it's going to run or not. That's all. So I'll come right back to it. So, oops, I think I put the wrong file. No, that was correct. And if it works, it should look something like what you see on the screen there. All right. You can already see how bad that looks. So we'll fix that after the break. If you've got it done, just save it. This will be the first one you're going to turn in. All right. Don't worry about where you put it or anything. None of that stuff now. But make sure you saved it. Make sure it works. Okay. So make sure you've got first name with first name, middle initial with middle initial, etc. And be back by 2 o'clock.